Internet. Oh, I forgot my water. I'll be right back. There it is. Hello, hello. I'm also going to be streaming on my Facebook page, so let me get that going. I am answering questions about having a nervous breakdown. And I'm getting ready to be streaming on a second platform. Okay, so we are discussing the experience of dorsal collapse. So there is a nerve. Kitty. My cat and her commitment to liquid is very impressive. But she's also really good at spilling stuff. So let me. Okay. In our cranial nerve bundles, there is a nerve called the vagus nerve, and it goes from your brain all the way down into it goes through it innervates, that's the fancy word, it innervates all of the major organs, and then it returns to the brain, and it governs what are labeled autonomic functions. So all the stuff that your body does without you asking it is the responsibility in part of the vagus nerve. So when you hear things about stress making our breath different or trauma response, those are often directing attention to the vagus nerve. There are 3 states of the vagus nerve that have been brought forward by this guy, Stephen Porges, and his understanding of what he calls Polyvagal Theory. I have trained with Stephen Porges, Peter Levine, Deb Dana, Bessel van der Kolk. I don't think I've trained with, I haven't, with who wrote The Myth of Normal, him. I haven't trained with him, but a lot of these guys I have. So there's 3 states of the nervous system, and something that's really convenient in medicine is it's pretty much always going to reduce to 3. If we're talking about anything having to do with doctors and situations, just like generally speaking as a pattern, because it's going to be too much, too little, or somewhere in the correct zone, right? Because we have the range of normal. So the 3 states of the nervous system are hypo-aroused, where you don't have enough going on, where there's a deficit in what the sages of psychiatry would call arousal. Kitty. It's time for Mission Impossible with the cats. So hypo, not enough. Hyper, too much. Mania. Dissociation. This nice little zone here, this is often labeled the window of tolerance. You may have heard of this referred to as the Goldilocks zone, like just the part where it's just right, where we have enough. Dorsal collapse is what happens when the vagus nerve just kind of hangs out down here. It just went flaccid. So let's look at some of the questions folks have asked so that I can answer them. Wait, I have too many things up. So what are how did I know that I was going into dorsal collapse? I did not. I didn't know. I knew that I was experiencing a lot of symptoms, including non-epileptic seizures. I was dissociating. I was, at the time I was working in tech, and experiencing profound abuse at work. And so that was one of the catalyzing factors. And the dissociation was showing up, like I couldn't do 2 + 2 = 4 on a spreadsheet. I am a recovering software architect. It was alarming how non-functional I was, but also I didn't have the perspective to understand what was going on because I was moving into this state, this nervous system state of hypoarousal, not having enough going on, called dorsal collapse. So I was experiencing dissociation. I believe the label is depersonalization, where I would look in mirrors and I could not recognize myself in the mirror. Like I knew it was me because I was the one looking, and it was very clearly not me. I believe that my history with alternate states of consciousness benefited me during this because I'm able to, just through practice in my life, have an experience and then like separate a bit from it to observe it. This I cultivated very directly through creative macrame, call it creative macrame with other grown-ups. But I got good at understanding like what was going on, at least enough to be able to communicate it. So as I was communicating what was happening, I was experiencing, it felt like shocks, like electric shocks going through my body. And I remember being like freaked out by it so bad, because I don't know if you've ever been shocked, but being shocked isn't pleasant, at least not for me. And then experiencing shock from my own body was really strange. And one of the areas, and I still will feel it, this is a model that has the meridians on it. And thanks everybody for being here. I'm sharing what it's like to have had a nervous breakdown. I think the questions are going to come through more easily on TikTok if you have questions. On the Book of Face, I don't know, you'll have to just ask. But the shocks I was experiencing were in my shoulder zone. They were right around here. That is the bladder. So this is the meridian that goes with the bladder and renal glands, which of course, not surprisingly, govern stress, the adrenal glands and adrenaline. And here I was experiencing shock waves, literal shock waves through my body. Once I was able to map where the shocks were happening to this, I relaxed a lot about what was going on in my body, because it became clear to me that taking a both and approach to, I was like getting ready to just be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. So, how would I do that? But then also the potential of what I was experiencing just being how I was going to be for the rest of my life meant it would be a chronic situation. And with chronic situations, I'm always going to go somewhere other than allopathic medicine. I will go to allopathic medicine right now for psych meds, just because my body still needs quite a bit of support in my nervous system. It is a lot to be knocking on the door of mortality for over a year, which is how long I was there. But I want to show you another way of contemplating thoughts on the current political. I have many, but that is a different subject. Wow, invoking Reagan. I feel like we can just Reagan and Thatcher. Anyway, so we're going to just hold in your mind hyper, hypo, aroused, too much, not enough, window of tolerance. And like how this is what, when people say regulate your nervous system, this is the frame, the model that most folks, I believe, are in, which is this idea that somehow we can exert force. That's what regulation is. Regulation is controlling. It isn't about flow. And balance is about homeostasis. It's about flow. So I personally never attempted to regulate my nervous system. I was only ever and am only always contemplating what is bringing me towards balance or away from balance. And let me get this other chart to show you, because there are other ways to contemplate states of the vagus nerve that are more nuanced. And this chart comes from Babette Rothschild. This is a chart that is something that, a tool that therapists and people like me who work therapeutically use. It is not, it's not the one that gets propagated popularly, no. But anyway, so Babette discusses lethargy, calm and active. This is where Porges would call safe and secure, or the social engagement network of Polyvagal Theory or the vagus nerve. This is like where we're good, we can handle it. And then we get into these trauma zones. This hypofreeze and parasympathetic dorsal vagus collapse. This is where my body was. I'm going to read to you what this expert says. I'm an expert too, but sometimes people need to hear other people. Hypofreeze. Prepare to expire. The muscles are flaccid. Respiration is low. The heart rate is very slow. That was accurate. Almost no blood pressure. My blood pressure was so low, they were concerned very much. Skin tone pale. Oh, the lid's drooping. So when I'm reading Babette Rothschild's chart on the vagus nerve, which is much better, I believe, than just having hypo, hyper, and window of tolerance. And this freeze collapse is where I was for over a year. So the skin, yeah, there was a lot of like facial paralysis happening, and one side of my, like for a minute I was like, did I have a stroke? Hi, Maggie, or Magpie, same thing, right? I'm just here sharing the experience of having a nervous breakdown. Everybody ask me questions that are relevant to that, not to Reagan, please. I'm trying to stay focused. And also like the experience of temperature control in my body did not exist. I was just frozen. I was so cold all the time. The digestion, it says here that it stops. I just didn't eat. I remember, it took a few months. This chart is Babette Rothschild. She wrote a book called The Body Remembers, which truly I would direct people towards before The Body Keeps the Score. Yeah, so this is Babette Rothschild. It's just it's another way. And can we all also please, when people are putting colors on charts like this, that's another indicator. It is another way to direct attention and to help us navigate the information, but it's not like if you're in the red or the green. This is more danger, this is less danger. So, contact with self and others, impossible. Too dissociated. Yep, prefrontal cortex inaccessible. I was walking around, I looked and sounded like I was drunk for a year. Like I couldn't, I'd have to lean on a wall for balance. Like the whole way that my medulla oblongata was experiencing the world was so warped because the way I understand it and experienced it, my relationship to gravity was messed up. I'm almost always contemplating gravity, power, and tension when I'm contemplating the world, and I couldn't hold my weight, so I was unable to lift up, and that created, let's see, a need to be, I was never incontinent, but I couldn't get to the bathroom. So yeah, I was on pee pads in the bed and I had to be carried to the shower. Oh, and was I still attempting to work for these people? Of course I was. Of course I was. I'm a good autistic girl. I said I would do that, didn't I? Anyway, it got to a point where it was clear that I would die if I stayed where I was. And I was like, well, if this is where I'm going, if my vagus nerve is so collapsed, it took me a minute to accept that I was in an abusive dynamic. I left that situation and then went elsewhere. But right now we're talking about the experience of it. Let's see, what else? What other questions did people have? What other questions do folks have about the experience of dorsal collapse? I didn't write down everything from my TikTok. Let's see.
It does suck that every time I give up
Yeah, I
sex.
don't care. I don't want to listen to you. Let's see. Lots of folks letting me know that my cat can be in a different mode. I'm just looking at my comments to see other, oh, here we go. Here's one. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so the question is about no, that's not what it is. Hold on. The label that I had, okay, so the label that I was given while this was happening was a label of functional neurological disorder, or FND. And I know that FND is a catch-all diagnosis. I was diagnosed with that. It got to where I had somebody drop me off at an ED and I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving because if I am a fall risk, I didn't want to crack my head open. I didn't know what was going on. They put me in a cardiac floor and then just left me in a bed for 4 days. It was absolutely horrific. I don't know if they were waiting to see if I was going to ask for like pain medication or whatever. I just wanted to know what was going on. So I had an MRI of my whole central nervous system. And that was fun because I was like, you guys are going to have to fully knock me out. I'm so claustrophobic, and I was in like active trauma responses. I'm like, you gotta do that. So they did that. There were no lesions on my brain. In fact, it's the only time I have been labeled unremarkable and thought, yay, thank you. And then I remember the neurologist was like really nervous about telling me that it didn't look like there were any physical problems with my brain. This was an MRI, not an fMRI. And again, please ask me questions. I'm just sharing what it is to have had my nervous breakdown. Other people have theirs. So when the MRI came back, unremarkable, and that also meant no ALS and no MS, I was getting those squeezes that they discuss. I don't know if you've ever read about multiple sclerosis or have spoken with folks who experience it. There's this hug that folks experience. I was experiencing that where it's like my whole body would just go, and it was difficult to, I mean, it was just rolling trauma responses, right? With dissociation, with the non-epileptic seizures, completely cut off, of course, from so many of my, what I thought were support systems. Thankfully, I had my dead mother's money. So so I was doing craniosacral therapy while this was happening, just to keep my spinal fluid moving. Craniosacral therapy is a very gentle touch. I'm going to find you a book that I can show you. Craniosacral therapy, you use the head. You're massaging and holding the skull and the cranium to help the cerebral spinal fluid flow, which is incredibly important for our nervous systems. It is also something that we're doing in the tantric systems, which that is one map of. So the tantra that I instruct. But so yeah, so like we're getting into the central nervous system with craniosacral therapy, only without like invading, right? And also the cerebral spinal pump is directly, we interact with it directly in the tantric practices and these somatic practices. But I wasn't able to access that myself because I was so dissociated and paralyzed and couldn't eat and couldn't sleep, and all that was happening. So I went elsewhere. I went to a craniosacral specialist. I also went to an acupuncturist. He was hilarious. He was like, "Oh, you're a little unbalanced." I was like, "Yeah, thanks." And truly, acupuncture was not. I needed a strong intervention. And so I sought out therapy through internal family systems and family constellations. And these are two modalities that rely on archetype, and the way that I'm in them, I'm trained in internal family systems. I've trained with Richard Schwartz. He's the PhD doctor who developed the modality. IFS is, I think, really wonderful for people with the alabasterness, because it's a way, at least in my experience, to connect with the concept of lineage without having an actual fucking culture. Because I was raised white. Progressive, but white. Yes, Kitty? That's Darla. Darla, say hi. She says, "I'm such a good girl." Darla, your lawyer said I have to give you some more games, so we're going to do that later today, okay? Yeah. The pain was unbelievable. It was so profound. It was everywhere. I was not given anything for it beyond gabapentin, which helped with the non-epileptic seizures. It did nothing for the pain. I don't know why. I know why, but it does nothing for the pain. What else? Hold on, I am missing something. I just did a whole thing for myself where I thought I had some more. Oh, here we go. Nope, that's not it. That is not it. That is not it. What other questions do we have about having a nervous? Oh, somebody labeled me CRAZY, or said like it doesn't make you CRAZY. We are not using that word. I'm not personally offended by it, and it is a not good word. Some comments were filtered. Please don't comment in a way that needs to be filtered, folks. What got me out of it? I don't think I got out of the nervous breakdown. I think I got through it. And that is important as a distinction to me, because it's the difference between being rescued, being saved, and being safe. So let's take a look at how I'm understanding that now that I've had this experience. I came into my nervous breakdown already a subject matter expert in trauma, the science of trauma, somatics, so much. Yes, it is not good. I actually, like I said, gabapentin helped me from the seizure perspective, but nothing else. Nothing else. What was I talking about? I don't remember. I got distracted by the gabapentin comment. How did I get out of it? And out or through. Thank you. Okay, so getting out of something and moving through something. If this is, I am an artist, but I don't draw. This is choppy water. This is choppy seas. This is choppy water. Okay, this is me drowning in the, like we've all had, you have days like this. We have weeks. We have lives where you feel like you're in the choppy water. Okay, and you need an out. You need to be saved. Okay, that is me getting out of LA. This is me going to Nashville to be with family, thinking that was a safer context, and discovering, nope, it's not. Boom, out. Being saved in my nervous breakdown meant moving back home to Pittsburgh and doing the work. The term that I'm using is location of home. I was like, if I am this disconnected from soma, from self, I need to get literally back to my roots. And again, thanks to my dead mother's money, I had resources to do that. I am now confronting running out of resources despite surviving, and what is that going to be, and how do I be disabled and potentially houseless? But look how I'm not having a meltdown about it, because my nervous system is safe, not saved. So if to be saved is to be plucked from the tumultuous storm, to be safe, in my mind, is to be a potted plant or a plant in the ground. And that is because you have time to build the roots. This is safe. Thank you. I'll take my award for being an amazing artist. This is a plant. That is the branches. These are the roots. To be safe means that you have time to exist and to settle. So I use soil and plants as metaphor often. So I made it to Pittsburgh. This is how I got out of the nervous breakdown. I made it back to Pittsburgh knowing that I needed to be somewhere home, to locate home. Home for my mind, home for my body, home for everything. I got back to Pittsburgh in September of 2019. I then located a therapist who works in internal family systems, family constellations, and is a trauma specialist. I don't know how it is a miracle that this woman is even local to me, much less was able to see me. So I got in to see her by October of 2019. Very purposeful, intense trauma work. I was dissociated going to her. I was using a cane still. I was still like really out of it. We did what we did. I was intellectualizing a ton, and also because I'm a subject matter expert, I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. I'm like literally giving her, bibliographies, and she's like, that's nice. No, this is about the body, and this is also why I chose IFS and family constellations, because I knew that I would not be directed to narrative. I would be directed to Soma. Dealing with trauma, this is my very strong opinion based on actual scientific knowledge and lived experience. Once you're doing the work of resolving trauma, let the science, if you know the science, let it go. Let it go. We got to get young. We have to be, it takes time. It's slow, and it's the young parts of us that heal. It's not the parts of us that understand the science. And I would say that the most important thing that my therapist does is keep science out of my mouth. She laughs so much when I tell her that. I'm like, all you have to do is just direct me away from Latin and we're good. But that is true. Now, for a lot of us, we're going to want and need the security of understanding the terminologies, obviously, and also what is the modality so that we can agree to it and all of that. I'm just saying, like, when doing the work of, you do not exist on there, Miss Ma'am. Look at her. Darla. Does that say kitty? This does not say kitty. That says Katie. She's mad because I'm on her chair. So that helped me get out of it. And then I got to a point where I was moving well enough that I didn't need my mobility aid anymore. I had been using a cane. I had graduated from wheelchair to walker to cane. Oh, by the way, all on my own. Like, once you get a label of functional neurological disorder, in my experience, you're just discarded into, oh, that person's nuts. It's considered a somatoform disorder in the DSM. Kitty. Darla. A somatoform disorder in the DSM, and in the DSM-5, somatoform disorders were all recategorized. I think it's really important that I like to know the history of a lot of this. It helps me, but I also approach all of this culturally. Anyway, somatoform disorders were all redone, but it's still labeled conversion disorder, which is Freudian. Miss Ma'am, that does not say kitties. That says KT. What do you want? Huh? She's being a difficult, naughty girl. I was very relieved to receive a FND label because I was like, okay, then I am my way out of this. But I'm resourced, and I'm not like I'm resourced. I'm resourced in that I had money. I no longer do. I spent it all getting out of it, but I had cash, and I had literacy in the tools of trauma and in the tools of psychology and in the different models, and I knew which science to ignore, which science to embrace for me. I also used the time, oh, hello, Andre. I used the time when I was addressing the dorsal collapse. Oh, that's right. No, that's not how it, wait, did it happen? Yes. When I was in therapy with resolving the dorsal collapse, I was beginning to speak in terms of autism. I think I might be autistic also. I always knew that I was neurodivergent. I mean, obviously. Oh, and I remember when my PTSD graduated to CPTSD, and then we got to look at the childhood shit, and that was fun. This is like, I am an onion that will never be peeled, right? Here, see my cute little kitty cat. I put down the cane. I reached over in bed and I felt pain in my armpit, and the odor had changed and it smelled rotten. And that was in March of 2020. And by June 1, I had a stage 3 cancer diagnosis. So I had my nervous breakdown right before COVID, essentially, right? Then I literally get on my feet only to receive a stage 3 cancer diagnosis. And because of the timing, I got to have almost all of that treatment isolated of body. So I was resolving this dorsal collapse, integrating my mind from the dissociation. I was primed and ready to go. If I didn't have my background in creative macrame as an edge player, edgy macrameer, I would not have survived. I have so much context for somatic stuff between I've done so much ordeal work over the years. I've done a ton of different like exciting cathartic breathwork practices like holotropic breathwork, rebirthing. I've walked on coals, so by the time I got into the cancer experience, I was like, well, this is a 2-year scene. This is 2 years. I approached it as I can't say the words on the TikTok. And then I did the treatment of cancer in somatic isolation while resolving this nervous breakdown. And somehow I exited everything sane and oriented towards peace. Although I have to say, like, the year and a half since I've completed treatment has not been easy. And just now, like, I don't even think my mind really came back until this summer. I still have, so with what I'm experiencing now is I still have neuropathy in my hands and feet. And a lot of that is because of the chemo, but I had neuropathy going into cancer, so who knows? And also to the whole question about like, what do we do with the therapy if I have to do treatment for cancer isolated and I've just had this nervous breakdown? I'm like, what do we, because you cannot address trauma, you can't resolve it while it's happening. You can do things to what do they call, resource yourself, or to set your body mind up, but if it's happening, you can't resolve it. This is the problem with Palestine, by the way, 75 years of ongoing, right? So while I was in treatment for cancer, I said 2 things. I was like, one, we're gonna do the IFS. Thank you. I'm very happy to share, and I want to be sharing more. So I appreciate that. I targeted my internal family systems therapy on my 6-year-old part, who was not seen as autistic and who carries my mother wound as a performer. And since breast cancer is a feminine leaning experience, I thought, oh, what a great time to address my mother wound. And because of the context of IFS and family constellations, it was perfect. Also, what that did for me from a like a metaphysical perspective is, here I was in my somatic isolation. So this is me having cancer. So, and I say somatic isolation because I had help, obviously. I had support. I just couldn't have anybody next to me because of COVID. And I moved through that without even a fever. I had an ear infection. I didn't have a hospitalization. I mean, it wasn't a cakewalk, but my somatics got me through. So here I am in isolation. So what family constellations and internal family systems did for me during treatment and does for me, okay, is it makes this limitless possibility, and the constellations gives me a context, like an ancestor context. Friend deep into trying to heal her mother wound. Any book suggestions? It's odd. The Women Who Run with the Wolves just came to mind. Let me find my copy. This comes from the early 90s. And it's about myth. Um, here we go. My mother actually gave this to me before I went to grad school. It's about the wild woman archetype. I'm not saying that this is like perfect for you, your friend, and your mom, but these are narratives. The lives of many creative. Let's see. Old woman has made 3 errors in judgment. Though she is supposed to, in the ideal, be the guardian, the guide of the psyche, she is too blind to see the true nature of the shoes she herself paid for. So that's where I met her. You're in a book group. Oh, discussing this book? That's hilarious. To be honest, truly, I personally stay away from self-help books and psychology books if I'm actually addressing something. Because again, if I'm addressing something and it is to heal, I want to be able to be with that and not have to understand or comprehend the science, right? And the math. So, I also apparently need something for my nose. Hold on. Something that I do around my mother wound is I have been following white women who are aligned with deconstructing and decolonizing, who speak to authoritative parenting over authoritarian parenting, so that I can hear women speak as though they're speaking to their children. And then the parts of me, the young parts of me who didn't hear it that way, get to hear it. That's something that's very helpful. Like, it's been amazing. And then also I got clear at some point, how am I? I exist. The mother wound for me is so closely tied to music and performance that I was also, like, I knew that just literally changing the music and how I play would help that, but I wasn't able to do this exploration until I was in the context of IFS and family constellations with a very highly trained, excellent human. I am Zitter Bart. And also, honestly, I think because my parents were dead when all of this happened. So, like, addressing the mother wound when my mother is in a place where I can grieve her is different than addressing it. Journey to the Dark Goddess. Ooh, I don't know that book. Let's look that book up. Journey. I might want to join your group. This sounds really cool. Journey to the Dark Goddess. How to return to your soul. Can I tell you one, just at the moment, I do have a gift in voice. I'm a classically trained, I was trained in opera. I see this, how to return to my soul, and I go, excuse me, my soul never went anywhere. I just forgot it. Talk about how I sing. I don't sing that much anymore. Oh, that was something else that was so prevalent when I was in the throes of the nervous breakdown, was I sounded like a smoker. Like, there was a lot of raspiness in my voice and stuff would get stuck. I remember pretty much living on, oh, I know. She say, I'm assuming that your cat is a girl cat, saying that that you read with a critical mind. It's just that why is everything marketed as this is the quick, I have to learn this because I have to speak in these ways. But let's see, to anyone who wants to do the inner work with their dark shadow self, can I have some opinions about shadow work? I'm going to have some opinions about shadow work. To establish credibility in the realm of shadow work, may I say that I have been in this realm since the 1980s. That's a while. And I have spent quite a bit of time with humans who get labeled experts in shadow work, including Gestalt therapists and such. Jung and the shadow. Look at the picture. What picture? This picture? The bird. Do I have a, I don't have a bird. That is a man, a human. Is that what you're thinking? Up. Up. The little thing there is, that's an Alex Gray piece. That is me, the experience of menopause. Anyway, I'm letting Andre distract me. Shadow. So Jung, Carl Jung, is friendly with this guy who we all know, named, what the fuck was his name? Sigmund Freud. And Jung and Freud had issues and they broke up. And then Jung has what's labeled a psychotic break. But now that I've experienced this similar integration, I'm going to say it was probably integration and not a break. But again, that only happened because I had an actual nervous breakdown. I don't suggest people like seek these experiences out. They're not fun. Jung writes a book called The Red Book, which is stunning. So he's Swiss and he goes somewhere and it is like an illuminated manuscript that he writes. No, I think most of these guys are very, so the question was, do I like Freud? So here's what happens, okay? Freud schmoid. Jung is friends with this guy, Richard Wilhelm. Richard Wilhelm, sitting on my cat's thing. Richard Wilhelm translated a bunch of texts that are mystical texts from China that speak to something called the golden elixir. The golden elixir is what we're cultivating in the tantric practices that I instruct, by the way. And what's wild to me is like, I was a Jung lover. Loved Jung into like through grad school at Carnegie Mellon. And then when I got like really deep into the esoteric contemplation of non-dualism or non-binary systems, I was like, Jung doesn't work though. It doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because a shadow blocks light. That is not the opposite of light. That is a version of light. Darkness is the absence of light. But you can only do dark work if you have more nuance, truly. So what happened was Richard Wilhelm gives Carl Jung a translation of The Secret of the Golden Flower. Do I just happen to have these books? Of course I do. And I don't even have like my whole fucking, I've gotten rid of most of my library just because I move so often these days. Okay, Secret of the Golden Flower. This is alchemy from China. This is somatics. This is part of what got me out of my nervous breakdown. But Jung goes, these Chinese, they don't understand the mind. They can't actually, women could never do this. Let me see if I can find you what they say. So what happens is in Chinese medicine, there are 5 spirits. I might have a PDF I can send you. If you send me a DM, did you get your, I'm just holding this up so that What's Up can get a screenshot. So Jung is like, yeah, but these Chinese, they don't understand it. So let me see if I can, this is all like beginning of the 20th century. We're like between World War I, World War II here, which is all very important culturally too. I guess we're discussing culture now. We're done with the, here we go, hold on. Where is it? Discussion of the text. I'm just reading. I have to read what these guys said because I know this, but I want to find what he discusses. And then I want to tell you about another text. All right. Oh, here we go. No, I didn't. All right. So Jung is like, well, the Chinese don't understand. So there are 5 spirits in the esoteric system that I'm in, that guy on the wall behind me is illustrating. And each of those go to one of your major organs that is paired with another organ. And there are 5, okay? Jung goes, oh, that's too much. He reduces it to 2, Hun and Po. Po is lungs, Hun is heart, which are all very important, but we also have a spleen, we have kidneys, we have a liver, and we have a pericardium. And Jung just went, nope, we're just going to make it simple. But when he did that, he removed any access to the shit that actually makes the alchemy happen. You need the complexity of TCM, and you need the presence of the concept of Shen, S-H-E-N, for the alchemy to work, for the alchemy to happen, for the vagus nerve to experience whatever this word is that people use, regulation. You need more than yin and yang, or 2 things. You need, I was calling it the 3rd factor for the longest time, and then I just decided Shen is easier, because listen to what Wilhelm says about the primal spirit that he is translating in this text. Primal spirit, like Shen. If one wants to maintain the primal spirit, one must, without fail, subjugate the perceiving spirit. The way to subjugate it is through the circulation of the light. If one practices the circulation of the light, one must forget both body and heart. Heart must die, spirit lives. When the spirit lives, the breath will begin to circulate in a wonderful way. Wow, that's amazing. And then they go, but you can only do it if it's binary. So shadow work is what happens when you remove nuance, when you remove the complexity, when you make it easy, when you turn it into a text, a formula. Look into the book Overlearning for Male Voices, right? I have so many copies of texts that speak to the golden elixir. Richard Wilhelm is becoming a real fascinating figure historically to me, though, because he also did a translation of Chuanzi, or excuse me, Litsu. Wait, is it Ava's? No, this isn't. He didn't translate this. Hold on, let me get the one. Here it is, this one, Chuanzi. Okay. Wilhelm translated Chuanzi. You know, a lot of these are men, yes, but one of the things I like about especially the medieval texts from China is, let's remember gender, biology, roles, all of those exist independent and distinct from identity. So from a structural perspective, from a systems perspective, from a metaphor perspective, we can separate. But again, you know, and because a lot of this stuff from the ladies wasn't written, it was transmitted orally. Is this the one though? Maybe it's not. I have an edition of one of the famouses who was also translated by Wilhelm, and the guy who translated it was saying how was it Confucius? The I Ching, that's what it was. Hold on, here we go. The I Ching, Book of Changes. The whole bagua and the hexagrams, if you've ever heard of Feng Shui, it's coming from this system. Let's see if I can find. So it's the trigrams where you're looking at the lines and whether they're connected or not, and it becomes a tool for divination. And the guy who translated this Huang, Alfred Huang. He's a Taoist master. He's Chinese. In his, I always read the footnotes and the introduction and everything because I think it's real fascinating. In his translation of this, he says that when he was a kid and he came to the States in the late 70s, he had been released from prison in China. He was sitting with folks who were also very committed to the I Ching, and he was like, he was having negative experiences with the I Ching. He was being upset by it. He did not feel growth or freedom or liberation. And he realized that the American translations, including the one that Richard Wilhelm did, eliminate commentary by Confucius, who is one of the big main philosophers historically. Confucius had commentary on this, and that commentary gives context. And so by removing that, you again remove access and the key to the magic, which is context. So I'm at this point, like, I just want to go as close to source as I can. And for those of us who are neurodivergent, we should be doing that anyway, because we need to be as close to home as possible, soma, at all times. Let's see. I still have experiences that are absolutely connected to directly my experience close to home. Yeah, location of home. Location of home. That's how I got out of my dissociation from the nervous breakdown. Was looking for home, location of home, and I did it logically through machine language and dialectics and negative dialectics, which are like really weird philosophy that I have a master's degree in. But I really had to like reprogram, literally get into. I'm a recovering software designer, and I was one of the first information architects for e-commerce. So I was just like doing a lot of that. But it doesn't help with this. The somatics help with this, and the location of home is not you, it is your body. It's not your idea, it's your body. It's not yourself, it is your soma. And because I have such a direct relationship to soma as well as self, I was able to just kind of hang out. This was my awareness, my consciousness, my shen was like here for years while I was moving through cancer and resolving all of that. And then it came in, and oh my God, it was amazing. I had this like really incredible energetic experience that maps perfectly to every metaphysical everything I know, and not at all to any physical thing that I know, unless we start getting into theoretical physics. But that doesn't make me very useful to be discussing theory at that level. It's super fun. But yeah, close to home, sense of bum. You know? Yeah, it's 1 o'clock. I have a strategy meeting in a little bit about how I'm going to, can I actually support myself? Because I might be more disabled than I'm able to do that. And that's okay. Scheduled Zoom coming up, go. And I'm going to be hopefully doing these much more regularly. Please continue to ask me questions. And I'll be back on in a bit. I'm going to go eat and center and get ready for my afternoon planning meeting. I'll see you soon. Bye.